When you've got an idea for a new offer, whether it be for a service, a product, a course or a membership, it can be tempting to dive straight into creating that new thing and offering it straight out to your audience. In today's episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast, I just want to plant a seed that it may be a better decision for you to first set up a waitlist for that particular offer. And in today's episode, I have 5 reasons for you to try out waitlists. This is episode number 472 of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/472. And you're going to want to note that number down today because as it's also day 11 of Tashmas, I have a fabulous gift for you as well. So let's dive into this episode and let's see if I can nudge you towards trying out waitlists. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. So because this podcast episode is literally just me listing out 5 very good reasons to try out waitlists, I'm going to dive straight into it. The first reason I think it's a good idea to try out waitlists is because it gives you an opportunity to validate the interest in that offer before you start building it. It gives you an opportunity to validate whether the topic is actually something that your audience desires, your delivery model is something that people would be interested in, and also gives you an opportunity to validate your value proposition, i.e. how much people would value this transformation you're going to help facilitate, as well as the details of your messaging. So there's lots and lots of validation that we can get for that offer before you've ever had to build anything in terms of delivering it, or had to offer it out to market. Now, this is particularly important for me if I'm going to go out and offer a new group offering, because I don't particularly want to go ahead with it if only one person purchases. I don't particularly want to go ahead with it if I don't hit those minimum viable numbers. So by setting up a waitlist first and gauging people's interest, testing out people's excitement for that particular outcome, I am able to ensure that I've got the basics covered and I'm likely to hit my minimum numbers. So number 1 is validating the offer before you start building it. Number 2 is it gives you the opportunity to generate those hot leads, which is another form of validation, but it also gives you some very practical insights. One of the things I have seen over the years is that most waitlists end up converting when you open the doors at about 15 to 20%. Particularly for those group programs, memberships, those sorts of things. Of course, there are exceptions to that. And of course, there are a lot of different factors at play. But it gives me a really good indication of what are my likely initial sales results going to be when I first open the doors. And I have a bunch of hot leads that I can actually follow up with. They are exactly the people who are most likely to buy when I do finally open the product. The third reason I encourage people to try out waitlists is it eases the roller coaster feeling that we can experience when we finally go into launch. Because you have that waitlist of people who are ready to buy and have indicated their interest, you can do a doors open to the waitlist before you open the doors to the public. That then smooths out some of those highs and lows of the launch roller coaster. Instead of having to wait until your first launch event or webinar or lead magnet or whatever you're using as part of your launch strategy before you get any sales in the door, you can do a cart open and cart close to your waitlist, get those initial sales in. It gets that feeling of anxiety off and out of the way so that you can, know that you've got some sales rolling in. And then you just feel like you're more in that space of abundance when you then go out to the public. So I really love that easing of the roller coaster of emotions that can come with opening to your waitlist first. Now, reason number 4 is not specific to pre-launching something, but is instead a waitlist for when you are starting to feel like you're getting to capacity. So one of the big mistakes that I see people make, especially when they start their business offering services one-on-one, is that they get a few clients in a bit of a rush and they start to catastrophize, but what if I get even busier? What am I going to do if I have more clients than I can handle? And instead of setting up a wait list for future one-to-one clients as they start to get booked up, they immediately decide that they need to start selling group programs. They immediately decide that they need to put some kind of other offer together because they're going to be too booked out. They're going to be too busy. Instead, I recommend that as you start to get booked up, you set up a one-to-one waitlist, a waitlist for people who want to be your next one-on-one clients. How reassuring would it be if you discover you've got space to take on some new VIP clients, or you have a client that ends their work with you, to be able to know that you've got a wait list of the next 15 people who are in line who want to be next. Imagine considering your pricing options that are available to you if you've got a wait list of people hungry to work with you. And not only that, when you do increase your prices, you could give your wait list the opportunity to be the last people to jump in at your current price. Having a waitlist as your one-to-one services and offers get booked up is a very powerful way to reassure yourself the demand is there so that you can increase your prices, you can slow down your intake of new clients because you're not feeling like, oh, this is my only opportunity to get this sale, so I have to take on every single person who's ever interested in working with me. There's a lot of value in that particular type of waitlist. And the final reason to try out waitlists is when it comes to between the launches of the programs that you've got. So having your doors to your course or your membership open and close from time to time can get a few fence sitters off the fence when your doors are closing and you've announced it and it's coming up soon. But also, I find when I open the doors to the takeoff program after a period of having the doors closed, I've still been growing my list in that time. I've still had people interested in the takeoff program in that time. And so they're jumping onto the wait list and they've literally said, when the doors open next, please let me know. And so when I do have that doors open period, I often see an influx of new students into the program. So they are the 5 reasons to try out waitlists: validating before you build something, generating hot leads for something, whether that be before you build it, in between launches, or as it starts to get booked up. It eases that roller coaster of income and emotions, especially when it comes to launching. And we've got our one-to-one waitlist as you start to get booked up. And also that leads between the launches when you have your doors open and closing periods. So if those 5 reasons weren't enough, I also wanted to share with you a previous podcast episode that I did that talked about waitlists, because I went into a little bit more detail around the drivers and some of the strategy, particularly when it comes to validating something before you build it. And I wanted to also use this opportunity to announce that my waitlist toolkit is now available for purchase. And because it's day 11 of Tashmas, your gift for today is you get to purchase the waitlist toolkit at a super discounted price that only the waitlist would normally have access to. All of the details are over with the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/472. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Happy Tashmas. Until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine, and I'll see you tomorrow for the final day of this Tashmas, day 12. Bye for now.